Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. Before we get started, the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 2 land, traditional territory of Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Assiniboine, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. We affirm our commitment to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities, including the national government of the Red River Métis, in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation. Are there any additional items for the agenda tonight? Council, don't see any. Okay. So motion then by Councillor Daly, seconded by Councillor Ray, be resolved that we accept the regular council agenda as presented. All in favor? Anyone opposed? And carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lachlan, seconded by Councillor Daly. Be it resolved that council waives the reading and accepts and approves as circulated the minutes of our regular council meeting from February the 20th, or sorry, February the 2nd, 2026. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. We'll move into the next item, which is the consent agenda. And we've got a couple of action items. First one is a proclamation, and that's for the coldest night of the year. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the Coldest Night of the Year campaign is a family-friendly national walkathon that raises funds that serve hungry, homeless, and hurting people in Dauphin and in 140-plus communities across Canada. And whereas the Coldest Night of the Year is a moment when tens of thousands of Canadians step outside the warmth and comfort of home and shine a light of welcome and inclusion. And whereas walking at dusk on a cold winter's night, participants feel a hint of the challenges faced by those experiencing homelessness during the winter. And whereas the Coldest Night of the Year campaign collects donations that fund critical services through local charity partners that serve and support vulnerable families and individuals in our community. Now, therefore, we, the Council of the City of Dauphin, do hereby proclaim February 28th, 2026 as the coldest night of the year.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. I know that you and Councillor Bellemare are, anyone else from council participating in that? We know? No? Okay. All right, we'll go to the outstanding receivables. There are three accounts to be added to taxes. Roll 0111000 in the amount of $594.17. Yard cleanup and weed control. 0154700 593.36 for the same reason, and roll 0104100 for $399.70, also for yard cleanup, and that's as recommended by the Director of Finance and the tax clerk. A couple of outstanding water accounts that are going to be added to taxes. Roll number 0132200 in the amount of $371.50, where the owner did not pay the final water bill. And roll number 0140700, $48.64, and that's for the same reason. And those are both recommended by the Director of Finance and the utility clerk. We have a number of filing items received from Municipal Northern Relations, information regarding the Business Security Rebate Program, from the Minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures regarding our Dutch elm disease management funding from the province. The News Digest of February the 9th from the Mountain View School Division. The newsletter from Community Futures Parkland from February, and Prairie Mountain Health's newsletter for February. And a couple of items from the Chamber Matters, and the Chamber Insider for February of 2026. Moved by Councillor Ray, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lachlan. Be resolved that all items listed in red under item 5C, the consent agenda, be approved and form part of these minutes. All in favor of that resolution? Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. Next, the motion by Councillor Daly, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lachlan. Be it resolved that the finance accounts, having been examined by council, be hereby authorized and approved as follows. We had 91 checks in the recent account for a total of $1,245,289.54. There were no voided checks in the current range or in the past range, and there were 7 EFT payments and 7 other electronic payments totaling $39,334.49, and the other electronic payments totaled $293,290.72. Any questions or comments regarding the finance reports? Call for the question. All in favor? And carried. Welcome. You guys are more than welcome to participate, listen, see what's going on here. Moved by Councillor Sobering, seconded by Councillor Ray, that council accepts as information the engineering staff report from the building inspector for the month of February. Everyone's had a chance to look at that. Any questions or comments about the building inspector's report? Call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Ray, that we accept the protective services report for today's meeting from the bylaw enforcement officer. Anything in that report that council needs to discuss? Call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Daly, seconded by Councillor Sobering, that we accept the protective services report from the animal services officer for the month of January. Any questions or comments regarding that report? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Ray. Be it resolved that council accepts information regarding the minutes and reports from the following committees. We received the 2025 year-end report from the Riding Mountain Biosphere Reserve Project. Just wanted to, if you looked at that report, just draw your attention to the fact that the work on the Edwards Creek Reservoir stuff out by the water treatment plant for the tree planting is yet to be completed. It's about an $81,000 contribution from the program and through the Biosphere Reserve, the Nature Conservancy of Canada, and the Vermilion Sportsplex tree planting will be completed this spring. There's one final little planting that needs to occur. So Councillor Ray and Councillor Bellemare will be out in their sun hats again planting trees. So that's just some stuff from the Biosphere Reserve. And we did get a letter later on where they've asked for support. They're doing their 10-year annual review. So it's in the minute. So we got some information also from the Parkland Regional Library Board, their regular meeting minutes, February the 7th, and we received their unaudited financial statements and their annual report for 2025. Any questions or comments about any of those reports? Call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Ray, seconded by Deputy Mayor Loughlin. Whereas the city faces increasing climate-related risks, including potential flooding, extreme heat, and drought, which poses challenges to public safety, employee health and safety, municipal infrastructure, essential services, and long-term sustainability. And whereas the International Institute for Sustainable Development, in collaboration with CVLNS and the Prairie Climate Center, has initiated. It's pronounced civilians? Okay. Has initiated the development of a climate adaptation plan for the city, funded by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities through the Green Municipal Fund. And whereas the climate adaptation plan will identify and assess climate-related hazards and risks to city-owned assets and services, including transportation, water, wastewater, stormwater, public works, and park infrastructure. And whereas the project will include climate hazard and risk assessments, staff and stakeholder engagement, public consultation activities, and collaboration with neighboring Indigenous communities, including representation through a climate adaptation working group. And whereas the climate adaptation plan will provide council with a coordinated, proactive, and actionable framework to reduce climate risks, protect municipal assets, strengthen long-term resilience, and integrate climate considerations into municipal decision-making and operations, be it resolved that council accepts as information a memo dated February the 3rd from Ashley Rowlick, the policy advisor from the International Institute for Sustainable Development regarding the initiation of the climate adaptation plan process for the city of Dauphin. Any questions or comments regarding this? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Sobring. Whereas pursuant to the Municipal Councils and School Board Election Act, council is required to appoint a senior election official and establish remuneration for the senior election official and other election workers in advance of each municipal election. And whereas the 2026 municipal election will be held on October the 28th of this year, be it resolved that council accepts as information a memo dated February the 5th from the Deputy City Manager, and who is also the Assistant Senior Election Official, recommending the reappointment of Kirk Dawson as the Senior Election Official and updated remuneration rates for election workers to support the effective and efficient administration of the 2026 municipal election. Further be it resolved that council agrees with the Deputy City Manager's recommendation and hereby reaffirms the appointment of Kirk Dawson as the senior election official for the 2026 municipal election as originally appointed by Resolution 2018-127. Further be it resolved that council approves the following remuneration rates for the senior election official: $40 per hour to a maximum of $5,500 with mileage reimbursed in accordance to Travel Expense Policy 2.3.5 and with provision for additional compensation by separate council resolution if required. That the assistant senior election officials receive $380 as a flat rate. Voting officials receive $320 as a flat rate. The assistant voting official receives $300 at a flat rate, and mobile voting station voting official mileage at the current rate reflected in our expense policy 2.3.5 for travel and the performance of election official duties. Questions or comments regarding this resolution? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Sobring, seconded by Councillor Ray. Whereas Regional Connections operates a settlement office in the community, providing no-cost settlement and integration services to newcomers, and has served over 1,150 newcomers through its office since April of 2020, be it resolved that Council accepts this information, correspondence dated February the 10th from Steve Reynolds, the Executive Director of Regional Connections Incorporated, requesting a grant in the amount of $10,000 to support the community-specific programming not covered under the core federal funding. These include cultural events, language classes for non-permanent residents and temporary foreign workers, and the distribution of newcomer welcome materials. Further be resolved, the Council forwards the request to the City of Dauphin's 2026 budget deliberations. Questions or comments regarding this? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Daly. Be resolved that Council accepts this information. Correspondence dated February the 13th from Allison Moss, the Director of the Parkland Regional Library, requesting a 2026 appropriation of $23,116.60, and that's a quarterly appropriation. And further be resolved that Council forwards this request to the 2026 budget deliberations for consideration. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Daly, seconded by Deputy Mayor Loughlin. Whereas the Riding Mountain UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve is currently undertaking its UNESCO periodic review for the 10-year period of 2016 to 2026, a mandatory requirement to maintain its designation within the World Network of Biosphere Reserves. And whereas the periodic review process requires letters of support from regional partners and stakeholders to demonstrate the ongoing collaboration, conservation leadership, sustainable development initiatives, and community engagement throughout the biosphere region. And whereas the city recognizes the value of the Biosphere Reserve in advancing environmental stewardship, climate action and adaptation, conservation education, sustainable economic development, and regional collaboration. And whereas the city has supported and participated in initiatives aligned with biosphere objectives, including the Climate Adaptation Plan, environmental education and awareness, community development efforts, and engagement in regional sustainability, be it resolved that Council accepts as information correspondence dated February the 13th from Melinda Tannehill, the project coordinator of the periodic review for the Biosphere Reserve, requesting a letter of support for the continuation of the UNESCO designation. Further be resolved that Council authorizes a letter supporting the continuance of the reserve designation and recognizing the importance of ongoing collaboration in this engagement. Any questions or comments regarding this resolution? I sit on the Biosphere Reserve Committee, and it's pretty broad reaching and sometimes not entirely specific to our municipality, but I think our involvement's really important, and we should, I think, get that off to them. I know that at the meeting, they did discuss the importance of getting support from the regional partners because the UNESCO designation is pretty significant, so. Moved by Deputy Mayor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Stigilo, be it resolved that bylaw 01-2026, being a bylaw of the city, to repeal bylaw 60-95, respecting an encroachment agreement for 21 4th Avenue Northwest, be now read a second time. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Moved by Councillor Daly, seconded by Councillor Ray. Be it resolved that bylaw 01-2026, being a bylaw of the city, to repeal bylaw 60-95, respecting the encroachment agreement for 21 4th Avenue Northwest, now be read a third time and be signed and sealed by the mayor and the city manager. As you know, this is a third reading of a bylaw. It's a recorded vote. So we'll go down the list. Councillor Sobring, Count Loughlin, Stakilo, yes. Bellemare,
Yes.
yes. Councillor Ray, Daly, and myself. So that motion is passed. Moved by Councillor Sobring, seconded by Councillor Daly. Be it resolved that bylaw 02-2026 be a bylaw of the city authorizing campaign expenses and contributions, now be read a first time. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Ray, seconded by Councillor Stakilo. Be it resolved that bylaw 03-2026, being a bylaw of the city, to establish rules and procedures for the use of municipal resources during a 42-day period before a general election or by-election, be now read a first time. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Loughlin, seconded by Councillor Stakilo. Be it resolved that Council accepts as information the following invitations. The Association of Manitoba Municipalities 2026 Spring Convention and Trade Show, which is April 22nd to the 23rd in Winnipeg, and the city's caucus meeting on the 23rd. And further be resolved that expenses related to council and senior managers attending these events be borne by the city. All in favor? Opposed? And that's in Brandon, right? This convention. Moved by Councillor Sobering, seconded by Councillor Ray. Be resolved that Council accepts as information the following community event, and that's an invitation for the Mountain View School Division highlighting their public forum being held on March the 2nd. That's an in-person and online event. So all those in favor of accepting that invitation? Opposed and carried. Now, getting right to the end already. Moved by Councillor Daly, seconded by Deputy Mayor Loughlin. Be it resolved that Council accepts as information councillors' reports for today's meeting. Where do we want to start? How about Councillor Bellemare, since you're far away, we'll start with you, and if you don't mind giving us your report. You're muted.
I have different screens up here, so okay, there we go. So February 9th, I attended the Planning and Priorities meeting, and on the 19th, I attended the Climate Adaptation Working Group. We're working on the pieces needed to be set up for the whole process, and that was mentioned earlier in today's meeting. And in terms of community events, you mentioned the school board meeting that's happening on March 2nd. You have to pre-register. So 2 items. One is the school board budget, which is regular business, but they're also discussing this year about changing their ward system. So they appreciate people attending and participating, so you can register online. And also too, we mentioned coldest night of the year, and I wanted to mention that Brent Cote had recently passed away, and many people knew he taught at the high school for a very long time, and he was the foods instructor there. And one of the things that the family has asked for donations are contributions to the Food for Thought program at the Friendship Center, which is the same thing that coldest night of the year is supporting. So you're very welcome to take your money down there in honor of Brent, and the family would appreciate that as well. And I'd also like to just give a shout out to that Men's Health Fund that was in our healthcare package. I think that's a really cool idea. And so people who want to look, again, are looking for opportunities to make donations, contact the Dauphin Hospital Foundation about that. So that's a Men's Health Fund. And just thank you for everyone for shopping locally and supporting our great community, and big and small decisions that we make every day ensure that Dauphin continues to be a great place to live, work, and play. And I just wanted to finish on that big thank you note. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councillor Bellemare. We'll see you back in town shortly.
Spending my money locally, yes.
Okay. Councillor Ray, how about you?
Thank you, Mayor. February 2nd was our last regular council meeting. On the 5th, we met with members of the AMM executive here at City Hall. February 9th, I attended the Community Advisory Board meeting at lunch hour, and then was present for the Planning and Priorities meeting later that day here. On the 11th, I was at the Assiniboine College alumni dinner at the WAC. And on the 19th, I attended the DART committee meeting at Dauphin Friendship Center. And I just wanted to put a shout out to our Parkland Viper 13U girls team, who won the bronze medal at the Premier tournament in Niverville this past weekend. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Attended the last regular council meeting, February 2nd. February 6th, I traveled to Brandon and spent the day with the Vet Services Provincial Committee, meeting study of the Vet Services District. With our goal is to make recommendations to the Ag Department. Since this Vet Services districts are 50 years old, so it's time to look at possible change. So that investigation is going on. February 9th, attended the MMF Community Advisory Board meeting with Councillor Ray. Later that evening, our Priority and Planet meeting. February 11th, also the Assiniboine College alumni dinner. And on February 17th, vet meeting prep and approval for town hall sites, dates and times for our vet services study. There'll be 5 different communities. Dauphin will be one of them. And that's it for my report.
Thanks you very much, Councillor Daly. Well, student councillor Jake, take it away.
Thanks. Since my last report during final exams, I'm relieved to say I've survived another semester. However, my class average was, I'll just say, less than ideal. So many students have yet to either earn the credit or struggled to get it afterwards. On another note, the band class recently returned from an overnight competition in Winnipeg. So I'm sure many students are excited to see the results after how much effort was put into the band. And that ends my report.
Thanks very much. Councillor Stakilo, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For myself, February 2nd, regular council meeting, February 4th, sports tourism meeting, and February 9th, planning and priorities. And then on the 19th last week, we had an airport board meeting. That ends my report.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Laughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For me, February 2nd, that regular council meeting here at City Hall. On the 5th, we had the AMM, I guess, presidents here and a meeting with them and their administration here at City Hall. On February 9th, the planning and priorities meeting here at City Hall. The 17th, last week on Tuesday, we had the Parkland Chamber meeting here at City Hall. That's getting ready for the Chamber Awards next month, so exciting times there. And as well, February 19th, the Airport Board meeting here at City Hall. And that's it for my report.
Thank you. And Councillor Sobering.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. On February 2nd, I attended the regular council meeting. We had a Riverside Cemetery meeting regarding the columbarium on the 4th. We did have an economic development meeting on the 9th. And at the end of the meeting, we did a tour of the future home of the Creative Common. That project's renovations are moving along quickly. And hopefully we'll start to see some activity in there very, very soon. I also attended the Planning and Priorities meeting that same evening. And then on the 11th was at the Watson Arts Center for the Assiniboine College Alumni Awards. And just want to give a congratulations to the award recipients, the faculty, Lance Maxwell, John Adolny, and Twyla Gilroy, who were their achievements were recognized that evening, and congratulations to all three of them. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's just a couple things that I might, share in terms of meetings that I had. We had an interesting meeting with a potential property developer on February the 3rd, just to talk about, again, housing and the concerns that we have in the community with some of the projects that are coming down the pipe. So that was an interesting meeting. We also met with Kyle Ross, president of MGU, on the 3rd of February, again, just to discuss with the Justice Center and other things that the unions are certainly interested to see what's going to be occurring in our community. So we had an interesting discussion, kind of shared notes on who's heard what from the various partners. And so it was nice to hear that we're hearing the same thing. So that was interesting as well. There was a meeting with Minister Kusteshin on Friday the 6th regarding some of the Northgate potential developments with Riding Mountain National Park. And so, again, we're keeping the provincial government in the loop on some of the things that are occurring, because we believe from a tourism and economic development point of view that Northgate's one of our boulders, one of our linchpin organizations. I attended the Ukraine Festival Board meeting on February the 10th with Economic Development Manager, just to kind of smooth the waters a little bit and let them know that we're involved going forward with a 3-year sponsorship package that they were very happy to hear about in light of the support that we were providing to Country Fest and other major festivals in the community. So I think the relations with Ukraine Festival is very positive again. And I've already been invited to participate in the festival for this year. So it's a good sign compared to what happened, the little communication breakdown, let's call it that, from last year. And then as well on the 11th, that many of you indicated, the Assiniboine College dinner and celebration. There was also a meeting earlier in the afternoon. I met with Mark Frieson and some of their deans, and with Councillor Daly, who sits on the board, to discuss some bigger project ideas and some business school development ideas that they want to bring to the community. So lots of interesting things going on, happening. And then finally, there was a Northgate AGM meeting last week, and we've subsequently met again with the superintendent from Parks Canada, and we're making sure that everybody is on the same page with what the development plans are with Northgate. So we're really looking forward to some more stuff from that. And with that, I will end my report and call for the question. All those in favor of accepting council reports? Carried. And that ends the meeting. So moved by Councillor Ray.